Hi everyone. Welcome to the last week of our course. It's been a lot of fun for me to get to know you all and to work with you on this content. This week we will finish up our learning by taking a close look at professional concerns in human service work. Specifically, we will learn about ethical issues in human service work and ways in which to make appropriate decisions regarding ethical dilemmas in human service work. When you think about ethical behavior, you may consider what is right versus what is wrong. Helping professionals from numerous disciplines, such as medicine, counseling, social work, and human services, have come to agree over the years that the best course of action when working with clients is to honor the principles of autonomy, non-maleficence, beneficence, justice, fidelity, and veracity. Supporting a client's autonomy is showing your support for the client's right to define the problem, help choose interventions, and help evaluate the process. The notion of non-maleficence equates to the maxim, do no harm. Beneficence is our responsibility to not only do no harm, but to do the greatest good for the client. That is, what is in the client's best interest. Justice is the principle of promoting equality of access for all clients. Much of the advocacy work you do will support this principle. Fidelity as an ethical principle is, in essence, our trustworthiness. It is important for you to do what you say you're going to do and be clear in your interactions with clients in order to establish a trusting relationship. Finally, the notion of veracity is our need to be honest and truthful with our clients. As professionals have worked over the years to establish a standard of professional behavior, different specialty groups have developed codes of ethics or standards of behavior to guide the work in a particular profession. Regardless of the professional association, whether a counseling association, a medical association, or a human service association, all ethical codes have certain similarities. First, the ethical code of a profession will establish guidelines for professional behavior, although no ethical code can completely address every possible ethical dilemma. Second, a code of ethics only binds the members of the profession that adopt it. Codes of ethics are not the same as law. In general, the two will support one another. For example, in Washington state, mental health counselors have a set of legal mandates that they must follow in order to practice in the state. These same counselors also have a code of ethics to follow, depending upon their professional association. For me, I am a licensed mental health counselor, which means that I am authorized to provide counseling services in the state of Washington. I am also a member of the number of professional associations, including the American Counseling Association and the American Mental Health Counselors Association. Both of these groups have ethical codes that I subscribe to. Whenever you consider a code of ethics and ethical decision-making, you ought to keep in mind the importance of attending to culture, whether you're working with an individual or with a group. According to Woodside and McClam, codes of ethics today emphasize cultural competence that include awareness, understanding, and skill. Finally, remember the impact that technology is having on all of us as you consider ethical work with clients. In particular, pay attention to client privacy, security of information, and maintaining the confidentiality of the helper-client relationship. To summarize, Woodside and McClam reminded us that a code of ethics reflects professional concerns, defines guiding principles of professional behavior, and clarifies our responsibilities to clients, the agency, and society. A code of ethics will not address every imaginable situation, and codes are only binding on members of professional associations that adopt them. Competence to practice is a process. You all are taking important steps now to develop your competence as you're enrolled in an academic training program. Once you have completed your program here, you will still need to regularly work to maintain your competence, as this is an important aspect of your professional responsibility. In addition to your training program, once you are working, you will likely engage in regular supervision sessions either with your immediate supervisor or with a group. You will engage in continuing education to work towards specializations and to improve your own skills. Being a responsible helper means that you are aware of your profession's codes of ethics and standards of behavior. You should also understand the consequences of not following the prescribed set of behaviors in your profession. Confidentiality is the helper's assurance that information the client divulge will remain between the two of them, according to Woodside and McClam. This is probably one of the most important aspects of the helping relationship in my experience. When clients know that their information is not going to be shared at will, then the client is better able to start to trust the helper and the helping process. Even though confidentiality is an ethical imperative, there are certain situations in which a helper could be required by law to breach confidentiality. It will be important for you to know and understand the limitations of confidentiality in your own work environment. These mandates are usually laid out in state law. For those of you who will remain in Washington State, you can access the Washington Administrative Code, or WAC, and the Revised Code of Washington, or the RCW, for specific information. In most states, confidentiality must be breached if the client is determined to be a danger to self or to others, and if the helper suspects abuse or neglect. Sometimes the client may initiate a legal proceeding against a helper. In these cases, the fact that the client brought charges against the helper negates the limitation of confidentiality, as the helper has a right to defend him or herself in court. Also, there may be times when a client discloses privileged information during litigation. In this case, the material is no longer privileged. Speaking of privileged communication, this is a legal concept that is commonly associated with attorneys of law and some helping professionals such as clergy and psychiatrists. Basically, if a professional body has been granted the status of privilege, then clients that seek services from a member of that professional body are able to invoke this privilege in legal proceedings. Woodside and McClam state that privilege rarely exists for beginning human service professionals. In agency settings, many times it is important for helping professionals to discuss cases and consult with other professionals. In many organizations, this will be explicitly communicated to clients. It will be important for you to understand the formal and informal cultures in your own agency regarding case consultation. In any helping relationship, clients have certain rights. At the top of this list are the client's right to privacy, which we just discussed, and the client's right to be informed of the helping relationship before the client is asked to consent to enter into the relationship. Informed consent is a blanket term that encompasses many specific issues about the helping process, such as the qualifications of the helper, the treatment procedures, the costs of services, the nature of confidentiality, and access to records. One important thing to remember about the informed consent process is that the client must consent voluntarily. To achieve voluntary consent, the helper needs to be sure that the information presented in the disclosure statement can be understood by the client. I often tell my graduate students in counseling that if they are working with adults, then their informed consent document should be easily understood by someone who reads it about the 6th grade level. Clients also have the right to be protected from harm. Woodside and McClam stated that it is the helper's responsibility to be sensitive to situations in which the client risks economic or physical harm and, if possible, to prevent harm from occurring. Codes of ethics have been established by numerous professional bodies. In 1995, the National Organization for Human Service Education approved a Code of Ethics for Human Service Professionals. In this code, professional responsibilities towards clients, towards the community and society, toward colleagues, toward the profession, and toward employers are delineated. Additionally, standards for human service educators, such as me, are also included. It will be important for you to be mindful of professional codes as you begin to interact in professional environments. To conclude this chapter and our studies, let's consider decision-making from an ethical point of view. As Woodside and McClam mentioned, there are a number of published decision-making models. Most of these follow the same general path, which is detailed here. First, it's important to identify the problem. As you think about the problem, be sure to consider the impact of culture and to consider the issue from ethical, legal, and moral standpoints. Second, consult with more knowledgeable colleagues and experts. It is always a sign of good faith when a helper seeks out consultation from others in an effort to come to a decision regarding client care. Third, identify the pros and cons of the situation. What advantages are there in the different possible courses of action? Finally, choose a course of action and then act. Once you have implemented your choice, begin the process of evaluating your efforts. What factors influenced your decision? Thinking about ethics is complex, and this chapter is just a brief introduction. From my own personal experience, the most important thing for beginning professionals to do is to ask for help when faced with an ethical decision. That's it for our lectures. I hope that you found this style of content delivery helpful. I've enjoyed recording these short lectures, and I hope that my own experiences may have served to highlight important concepts from the readings. As you finish up, you should remember that you'll have a final quiz during week 10, and your agency exploration paper is due by the end of the week. As always, please let me know if you have questions or concerns. It's been a pleasure working with you, and good luck in the rest of your program.